Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Taboo Talk with Sarah, the podcast that breaks the silence, fosters hope, and talks about the tough stuff so you never feel alone. I'm Sarah Jordan Ross. I'm a mum of 3 amazing boys, a wellness coach, and I've spent the last 25 years or so holding space for real, honest conversations. The kind you won't always find on the highlight reel, but the ones we really need to have. So here on Taboo Talk, we talk deep, raw, messy, healing conversations that make us feel seen. So whether it's trauma, grief, neurodivergence, faith, burnout, the silent weight of care work, we talk about it all so you know you're not alone. Today's guest is Deborah Green. She's a retired 911 dispatcher with 30 years in law enforcement. Her career is dedicated to serving others in their most critical moments. But behind the scenes, the toll of that constant stress and exposure to trauma eventually led to her own diagnosis of PTSD and complex PTSD at that. Since retiring, she's become an advocate for better mental health care for first responders and now plays another vital role, full-time caregiver for a 4.5-year-old autistic grandson. So we've got a bit to talk about. Deborah's story is one of service, survival, and strength that it takes to keep showing up. So I am so glad you're here, and we've got heaps to talk about. It's a lot. Let's start with your time as a 911 dispatcher. What drew you to that originally, and what's it like doing that kind of job for 30 years?
You have to check your sanity at the door. But I started back in, I joined the military, the California National Guard here in the States back in 1986, and eventually became a military police officer. In 1992, I was hired with Sacramento Police Department as a 911 dispatcher. And so it kind of overlapped my career in the National Guard, because National Guard, you do 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year throughout your term of service, and then they can call you up to do all sorts of lovely things, like go fight fight wildfires. My deployment actually was at the LA riots. I don't know if you heard about those.
Yep.
So that
You've had
we
a couple
call
of them over the years.
Yes, we've have. These were specifically the Rodney King riots.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. So I was at the time going to the academy to be a dispatcher when I was deployed to Los Angeles. So my academy was a little bit broken up because the military service took precedence over the civilian side. Right after that, I left the military, continued with my civilian service. I was with Sacramento Police for about a year. They released me on probation because I wasn't meeting up to their expectations for a larger department. But they suggested I would go to a smaller department, and which I did. I got hired with El Dorado County Sheriff, which is just outside of Sacramento, and was with them for 27 years.
So a long time in that role. So you would have seen a lot of things.
Yes.
Now, not much gets spoken about the emotional toll that a role like that can take. So when did you start to notice the effect it was having on your own well-being?
Not right. It's not right away. When I started, it was in 1992, and the theory or the feeling was, if you couldn't handle the stress, then you didn't belong in the department. So you just kept stuffing it down and not letting anybody know that you were hurting. So it took a long time to have anything show up where I realized something was going on. So in 2015, I had open heart surgery to replace a faulty aortic valve. And I developed what's called post-perfusion syndrome, which is caused by being put on a bypass machine. And what
Your
that
body
does,
just took a little time to catch up to what was going on.
yeah, so everything that I had before that I didn't realize I had before, so all the depression and anxiety and maybe even the PTSD that I didn't realize I had kind of exploded into this horrible monster of a uh, I didn't know how to handle it all. Plus, having that surgery also causes stress on your body because you're having your bones cracked and your chest ripped open and your heart manhandled and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, it's just a minor thing.
So, late 2015, early 2016, I started with a therapist and went to a lot of classes for depression and anxiety that were put on by my health insurance. And I found a weekly support group that I attended faithfully just about every week, just so that I could. I guess it was self therapy. I don't know what you want to call it, but it actually did help me, kind of deal with things and learn techniques to deal with what was going on in my head. When people tell you it's only in your head. Well, yeah, it is.
That doesn't make it any less real.
Right. And then in 2019, they discontinued the support group. And that's when I had my my big PTSI incident was in October 23rd of 2019, where I've had a deputy killed while I was working the radio channel. Listened to the gunfire and all of that, and couldn't come off the radio right away. So I had to. So we found out through various means that he had passed at the hospital. So I'm sobbing, crying, and just trying to control myself, but not letting the guys out in the field that are trying to catch the suspects know anything was wrong. So they would transmit, and I'd take a deep breath and answer them and then go back to crying again. So, it was a very traumatic 4 hours that I went through there. And that was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back as far as my mental health was concerned. So
possibly because you'd been shoving stuff down for so long and pretending everything was okay until suddenly you're faced with this. I can't pretend that any part of this is okay.
Exactly. And and I had those types of incidents throughout my career, but nobody had actually died, and I hadn't listened to the traumatic stuff that was going on. So it just kind of built up and built up and built up, and then just whammo, there it is, we're done. And a year later, I went out on workman's comp, and my psychiatrist said, nope, you're not able to work anymore. So
that was what triggered off the retirement.
Correct.
And just on a side note to that, did actually getting those diagnoses of you've got post-traumatic stress, there is something very real going on here, did that make a difference to how you then dealt with it?
It took a huge weight off my shoulders, wondering why I was feeling the way I was and doing the things I was, not realizing, a lot of anger issues came out of that one incident. Because you're going through grief also, because you lost a friend and a coworker, but you also had that PTSI incident. So you're dealing with that, and it was just a lot.
Yeah. Yes. Too much to take on all at one time. So you retired, and that's a huge shift by itself. But after you retired, you then took on the extra fun extra weight of caregiving for your grandson. So what's that been like? So we're over our little technological difficulties.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. So you retired.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you took on the extra fun role of caring for your grandson.
Yes.
What's that been like?
So, he was born a month before the psychiatrist signed me off of work onto workman's comp. So and so when I went out on workman's comp, I actually started watching him then. So we've been together since he was 4 weeks old. And it's been quite the roller coaster ride. About 6 months, when he was about 6 months old is when I noticed there was something different with him. Just kind of wasn't smiling at everybody like normal kids. And about 6 months, they'll grab your face and look at you and kiss you, and think he wasn't doing that. And just kind of seemed focused on things that turn, lots car wheels. And we had little spinner fidgets that he would play with. So I kind of knew something was off. We weren't quite sure. But when he was about 2 is when we noticed that his verbal skills were way behind. And that's when we started getting the testing done and got his diagnosis this year, finally. And
yeah, diagnosis seems to take a while.
Yes, it does.
And caring for a neurodivergent child is its own special kind of intense roller coaster. So how do you manage navigating all of that and still taking care of yourself, because you've got PTSD and you're caring for a neurodivergent child? It's important that you take care of you as well so that you can take care of him. But it's a tricky juggle.
In the beginning, it was really good because he was a baby, and he kind of helped me.
Babies are easy.
They were easy. He was easy. It gave me something to get up in the morning to go do. It got me outside, so we take walks every morning to get outside, get that natural vitamin D going. We go by the park on the way home so that he can get out and run off his little energy because he's got a lot of that. But
he's a little boy. They all do.
So sometimes I don't know. Is it because he's a boy? Is it because he's 4? Or is it because, as we refer to it, is it the tism?
I love that.
You just kind of got to figure out which is which. But we've also,
it's hard to know.
It is, and I raised 4 boys and a girl. So, it's kind of like, you just kind of go, he's 4. So I would just leave it at that. But he's also taught me a lot of patience, and because we have to work through his, I don't know if you call them temper tantrums or just spells or whatever. When you tell him no, then he kind of goes into a thing where it's like, I don't want you to say no to me. And for the longest time, he would have these little tantrums that lasted 40 minutes to an hour. And now we've gotten him down to a couple minutes. So it's really good, but it's taught me patience on how to work through my stuff when I'm having a panic attack or something like that. It's a lot of breathing exercises that we go through. I also have a weekly support group that I attend online. So that really helps. And it's with first responders. So I have like individuals that I can talk to when I'm having issues. And I also attend a women's meditation and journaling group once a week online. So I'm getting out, and I also have a part-time job on the weekends on top of all of this.
Just because you needed something extra to do.
But it gets me out of the house. I'm not, Monday through Friday, I'm stuck in, these four walls, basically. Even though we're taking a walk and I can go shopping and whatever, I'm still stuck here, not talking to adults and not interacting. So on the weekends, I can get out and I talk to adults. So that always helps.
Yes. It's sometimes amazing how much just talking to another person who is in a similar spot to you and gets it, that you can just say, I'm feeling XYZ, and that person is just going to understand, and they're not going to judge you or dismiss you. They're just going to go, yep, I get it.
Yes.
And sometimes that's all we need, is that space where we can go, well, this is really great, but this bit really sucks. And it be okay to actually voice that.
Yes.
So you talk about having better mental health support for first responders. And I love that you just said all those little things that you're doing, those taking care of yourself, that even as simple as getting out of the house and going for a walk, and then on other days connecting with other people. So with what supports are there for our first responders, what do you think needs to change there in how we help and support those people who are on the front lines?
A lot more understanding, and it has to come also from the individual departments. So I know down there in Australia, you guys, your law enforcement is set up a little bit different than it is here in the States. So I think you have, is it provinces? I'm not sure, or states. So the police department is the state police department, from what I understand. Where here in the States, it's each city or county. The state has a police, and then we have federal. So there's a lot of moving parts in here. But each individual, what we're looking at is going to each individual department and having them provide peer support, making therapy not such a stigma anymore. Because when you're in a position like law enforcement, people think that you should be able to handle everything, and not understanding that we see a lot of trauma through our careers, where the normal person may have one or two traumatic events in their lifetime. We may have one or two traumatic events per day, per week, per month. I mean, we can see up to 400 to 600 in our career, which is not necessarily our entire lifetime. So it's a lot different, and making it more the norm to have somebody go out and see a therapist once a week or once a month or even once a quarter, depending on what they need, but not make it a bad thing. As I tell my law enforcement podcast that I go on, I would much rather have the guy that's in therapy be my backup than I would the guy that's not in therapy that's having issues.
Last thing you want when something's going on is to have that incident be that thing that breaks the camel's back, and then both you and your backup are in big trouble.
Right.
So yeah, much better. I agree completely. Much better to have people backing you up that are dealing with their own stuff and not pretending that it's not an issue. And
Yeah.
I know that was part of why I started this podcast. Was I've been a massage therapist for a long time, and I also grew up with a mother who was the clerk of the court. So in Australia, we have police, but then our court systems, local courts are run by, like, so my mum ran the courthouse at that local division, and that's where also if you're in small rural areas, you'll have family courts sit there. Sometimes you'll have the different levels of the courts sit there. So I grew up around lawyers and policemen and that sort of thing. And I know that they go through a lot that they don't talk about.
Right.
But then also, as a massage therapist, I kept hearing people going through very similar experiences. Granted, a lot of it was around being parents of neurodivergent kids or suffering from anxiety, depression, those sorts of things. But the common theme was every person that I talked to felt like they were going through it all by themselves. And my first thought was, well, they're all telling me about it, so they're definitely not alone. And I wanted a space where people could say, hey, I hear you, I know. And for people to share their stories so that we could say, hey, there's somebody else who's been through that experience. Because the only way we're going to heal, the only way things are going to get better is if we start talking about it.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I'm just going to keep talking about it until I can't talk anymore,
Good.
Because I've already found the one person that I, have helped, and I want to go and have another person and another person. And, it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but if my story's out there on all these different platforms, somebody is going to hear it when they need it. And I told myself I want to be that person that I never had. So.
And that's the thing. When we've gone through something, we are then able to be for somebody else that person that we needed. And I think that's what we should do. If we are in a position that we can help another person through something, then we probably should. Now, if somebody listening is in the middle of burnout, trauma, especially if it's caregiving or frontline service work, what would you want them to hear today, apart from that they're not alone?
They're not alone, and there is help out there. There really is. There's a lot more help than people realize. Here in the States, we have a lot of organizations that help veterans and first responders. We have organizations that help parents and caregivers of neurodivergent children. So the help is out there. Just get on the internet and use Google or use whichever search engine you have and get out there. And with the COVID did a lot for us. People don't realize.
Out of everything, there comes a blessing.
It is. Telehealth has been fabulous. I do my therapy appointments in the comfort of my own office, which is fabulous, and my support group is online and my women's group is online, and I don't have to leave my safe space to go out into an impersonal office or anything like that to go do this. And there's so many apps. I'm not sure what you have down in Australia because it's a little bit different than here in the States, but we have lots of mental health apps on our phones that you can get help. There's apps like Calm that have breathing exercises and help you with sleep and things like that. And, there's just a lot of help out there if you need it, which is so wonderful. The last 5 years has been awesome.
And I think we are slowly getting better at asking for help and accepting it too, because sometimes that's the tricky thing is we are so used to carrying it all by ourselves that sharing the load sometimes is hard, or admitting that I can't do it all because hang on, aren't we supposed to be able to do it all?
Yes,
Sometimes
we are.
it's hard. But the thing is, no, we us humans, we are herd animals. We were not designed to do life in isolation. We weren't designed to do everything by ourselves. We thrive when we're in community, and that's what we need to have. And mental health challenges are definitely not something that somebody should go through by themselves. And yeah, there is help out there. I know in Australia we've got a brilliant app called Smiling Minds. It does all sorts of things, and it caters for everyone from kindy kids through to grandmas.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
And older. You don't have to be a grandma. Yeah. So before we wrap up, if people wanted to connect with you and be part of your community and learn from your experience, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
The best way would be on my Instagram account, which is at D911Green. It has my link tree on there that will link you up through LinkedIn if anybody has that. I'm also on X, sort of. I've taken a break from that. I felt my anxiety get the best of me, so I've kind of cut that off a little bit. I do videos on TikTok that have kind of inspirational, helpful stuff, and then I post those on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel called Where the Sidewalk Ends. No relation to the book. So yeah, I've got lots of places.
And we'll pop all of those in the show notes too, so anyone will be able to pop on there and have a look and get in touch with you. Now, I have one last question that I like to ask all of my guests. What's that one conversation you feel we should be having, but we're not?
Oh my gosh. Well, here in the States, we had a few rough years as far as law enforcement officers. In 2019 was the highest law enforcement murder rate that we had, with over almost 400 officers killed that year. But the suicide rate since then has overcome any officers killed on duty. And what we need to have is that difficult conversation within the law enforcement community, the first responder community, because it's not just cops, it's firefighters, it's dispatchers, it's medical professionals, it's veterans. And we need to have that difficult conversation about suicide and how we can prevent it in the workplace.
Yeah. And yes, the suicide conversation is definitely one that needs to be had and to keep having, because it's not going to be a simple solution. And the scary thing is our suicide rates across the board and even amongst our youth are higher than they've ever been.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of people who are struggling, who are in pain, and choosing a very permanent solution to what is quite often a temporary problem, if we can get the help and support around them to navigate through it.
Mm-hmm.
But
absolutely. But yes, because, I even thought about it at one time, and it's, if it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. And we need to have those nasty, yucky conversations and try to fix it within, and it'll get there. And as long as we are more open about getting help, we're more open about mental health issues, and and I can see the tide turning. It's not like it was in 2015, 2016. It's gotten so much better, but we're not there yet.
No, there's still a lot of work to do and a lot of conversations that need to happen because, yeah, the rates being as high as they are is just kind of scary.
It is. It is. And we lost several here in the area. I lost 2 officers at my department to suicide over the course of my career. So, it's there. It affects everybody.
It does. And to be completely honest, hearing a song called Whiskey Lullaby, and I have mentioned it before on the podcast, I was driving home from dropping the kids off somewhere, and Whiskey Lullaby came on the radio, and it's a song I hadn't heard in probably 10 years, but it is about suicide. And one of the lines in it that really stuck with me and what triggered off me coming home and saying, I want to start a podcast was nobody ever knew. And to my mind, it was nobody ever knew how much pain she was in, how much she was hiding because she never spoke about it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to speak about it.
Yes.
Because possibly if somebody knew what was going on, that would be one less person that went down that dark road. So, yes.
Mine is one is too many.
One is too many. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's a great note for us to draw to a close on, is that one person committing suicide is one too many. And we need to share our stories because you never know when your story will be the thing that makes the difference for somebody else, particularly if they are in that dark space. Now, if anyone is in that space, please reach out for help.
Definitely.
Even
and in
if
the
it's
States,
that
it's
you send Deborah a message, send me a message, reach out to Lifeline,
Exactly.
reach out to any of those support services, and I will put a list of support services that are available in the show notes so that you can do that.
And also in the States, it's a simple number, 988. Will get you somebody on the line to help you out. They say it's a suicide prevention line, but it's actually a mental health talk line. And it'll just get you somebody to talk to right away.
Yes, so please use those resources that are out there. Deborah, I want to thank you so much for coming on today, for your courage, your honesty, and your lifetime of showing up for others. I tend to think our first responders are quite often unsung heroes, and those that don't see the things always firsthand but are there supporting our first responders as well need a bit of encouragement too. So
Absolutely.
to all of our listeners, if something in today's conversation resonated with you, please know that you are not alone. Healing is possible and your story really does matter. If you've got a story of your own to share or a topic you'd like to hear explored on this podcast, I'd love to hear from you. So leave a comment, send me a message, connect with me on socials, and just let me know what you want to talk about. So I'm Sarah Jordan Ross, and this has been Taboo Talk. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, your story matters, so share it.